Have you ever looked around at the people in your industry and thought, how are they getting all of this attention when I'm out here doing so much better work? If that hit a nerve with you, it is probably because you are not positioning yourself and getting yourself seen in the places that you want to be seen in. And you're not alone. This is something I see all the time with the women that I work with. They are brilliant at what they do. Their clients love them. Their work delivers, but yet they're not being seen. They're not being talked about, and they're definitely not being recognized as the expert that they actually are. And I will tell you now, it is not because they're not good enough. It is simply because they're not visible enough and their messaging is off. And that is where PR comes in. When we're talking about PR, we're talking about public relations, and not the flashy, ego-driven kind, not the let's get featured in Forbes or Vogue and just slap it on your website kind of thing. We want to talk about PR that actually builds real trust, because in 2026, visibility isn't optional, unfortunately, especially if you're an online business. It is how your business is going to grow. It is how people are going to make decisions on whether to buy from you. It is how strangers are going to become clients or customers, and why they choose you instead of someone else, because PR is a way to build trust. It is a way to nurture an audience or be introduced to an audience that maybe before didn't know what you did. And the problem is most people don't actually know how to talk about what they do in a way that actually lands. Their messaging is fuzzy, their strategy is reactive, and they're throwing things at social media, hoping that something sticks. And I understand that. And you've probably already got a million and one things that you're doing with your marketing strategy, that the thought of adding PR in on top of that and pitching yourself to get seen in places that aren't your own feels like just another thing on your to-do list. But in reality, if you want to be taken seriously this year, you are going to need to start showing up in places that have already got credibility built in, so that you can feel credible as well and you can be seen as credible as well. And the thing is, when you are pitching yourself to these podcasts, these publications, and these platforms, you're getting seen by a new audience, and automatically that is a way to build trust with that new audience, not just engagement or likes on your posts, which is what you're going to get if you're just doing it through your own means of marketing channels. Now, marketing and PR are two very different things. In this episode of the Remote CEO Life podcast today, we're going to be talking about PR and getting yourself seen. So if you're ready to step into that next level of visibility and authority, you're going to really love this episode, because today I am joined by KJ Blattenbauer, the founder of Hearsay PR, and someone who spent nearly over 30 years actually helping entrepreneurs, experts and brands go from credible to completely recognized. KJ's worked with everyone from bootstrapping founders to big name beauty brands, and she knows how to craft a message that lands, where to pitch it, and how to turn your voice into visibility that actually converts and gets you revenue in the bank. She's going to walk you today through the difference between marketing and PR, how to find the right press opportunities for your business, and the one thing that most people get wrong when they try to get themselves featured. If this episode lights you up and you're ready to get seen and put your idea and build it into a fully functioning business, then I want you to go and check out the Freedom Model Methods Foundations program that I have recently launched, which is a program where I'm going to help you build an online business that's simple, scalable, and built for freedom, with messaging that's super clear, systems that support you, and the smart use of AI to save you time and create more space to grow. This isn't about building another business. This is not about you getting busier. The program really focuses on you building business in a way that is going to support your lifestyle. And within that, there actually is a module on PR, because fun fact about me, I actually used to work in PR when I was right at the beginning of my fashion industry career. But as a 17-year-old in the PR industry, I wasn't taken very seriously. So I actually have quite a bit of a link to the PR industry, which I also really appreciated about this episode, because I really understood what all of the things that KJ was saying, and I really love some of the strategies and advice that she was giving. So if you are thinking about doing PR in your business, or you are launching a new business and you want to make sure that you're doing PR for that and getting yourself seen from day one, make sure you go and check out this episode. Make sure you listen to this episode. Let's get stuck into it. I would love to hear a bit more about yourself and how you've spent nearly 30 years helping other business owners and experts get seen, get heard, and taken seriously through PR. So do you want to give us a bit of an introduction to your background?
Sure. I'm KJ Blattenbauer. I'm the founder of Hearsay PR. And like you mentioned, for nearly 38 years, I've worked behind the scenes helping experts, founders, and brands move from credible to completely recognized. Some of them have gone from unknown to totally iconic. And I started long before the internet was even a thing and social media made visibility noisy. So back when reputation actually had to be earned the hard way without the clicks, the likes, all of that. So my work's always been about positioning, shaping the narratives, identifying what's genuinely newsworthy, and making sure the right people, not just more people, but the right people are paying attention to what my clients want them to. And so my clients don't want to be internet famous per se. They want to be taken seriously. They want to be trusted quickly. They want to be chosen confidently. And that's the work that I do.
That's amazing. I actually, fun fact about me, my first job was in PR. So from quite an early age, I started interning in a press office when I was like 17 years old. And then I had one of my first jobs was like a press intern, essentially, I worked in-house and in agency. So I understand like how that industry worked back then. This was 15, 16 years ago, because it was quite a while ago. But I would love to hear it from you in terms of if anyone's listening and doesn't really understand what PR is, because what I have seen with many clients and people that I work with, they're not always fully familiar on what that term actually means. So do you want to give us a bit of a breakdown around what we're talking to when we're speaking about PR and publicity?
Sure. Yeah, PR is really just the way you want people to think, talk, and speak about your brand. You're training people the messaging around, how do I describe what KJ does? How do I describe what Sophie does? What does this brand do? It's introducing people to the language. How do you want to make them feel when you're not around? How do you want them to introduce you in rooms you're not in? And then it's using borrowed lanes like this podcast or the local news station, your local newspaper, a national or international website. Those sorts of reputable media tiers, I call them borrowed lanes, but they help boost your credibility more than just me shouting on social media that I'm a great PR expert, right? Like I might say it, you might say it and confirm it, but if someone sees it in like Forbes or Entrepreneur, then they're like, oh, she really does know what she's talking about. And that's the benefit of PR.
Yeah, I agree. I think a common misconception about PR is that you get publicity and that equals sales. I haven't always seen that to be the case, but it has been like a really good credibility builder. It's getting your name seen by people that may not have been able to see you before. Do you work more with product-based businesses, or do you work more with like service and people getting them seen?
I have a pretty healthy mix at my agency. Lately, I've seen a huge influx in expert PR, people who are the authority in their industry, whether they produce a product or whether they have a service, but they are tired of letting the work speak for itself because it just doesn't in this day and age with social media, with internet, with everything and all the noise out there. So many people want to be the known person. They're tired of seeing their peers get recognized, their peers get press. And so if you want to be the expert in your industry, I think PR is the quickest way to grow that authority.
Definitely a great way to be seen as that credible voice that people are listening to. Because let's just say, for example, I've been featured in Vogue magazine, I've been featured in Forbes. I put that on my website. People will be like, oh, well, Forbes and Vogue magazine trusted her to comment on this. So clearly she's got something good to say. So that's the kind of thing that we're talking about here, isn't it? Like that credibility piece of like, well, this publication, this podcast has spoken this person's voice for them. So amazing. They must be a really credible person to work with.
Right. And like you mentioned before, it doesn't exactly equal to sales, right? Like you're not going to go on one podcast and then sell 15 things. But what public relations does really well is it closes like a visibility gap. It also builds trust. So if it takes 8, 9, 18 touches before you can close a sale, showing up repeatedly on people's podcasts, in the news, having those credible mentions on your website, it gains the trust faster. It shortens that sales cycle, but it also builds trust exponentially. So I might be on one podcast and I'll probably see a 34% increase in revenue, right? Like I have a beauty brand client, they were just in the cut. We saw probably an increase of 200 to 400 sales in the first 24, 48 hours from when that article ran. Did the article make those people immediately buy? Some of them probably. It's the first time they've heard of us. For others, it was probably the 5th or 6th or 1700th time they've heard, and they're finally like, oh yes, now I need to buy that. Now I trust those people. And so it builds that visibility, it builds your authority, but it helps boost you. People could be thinking of hiring you, wanting to work with you, go to your website, mess around, look at services, see the prices, maybe get sticker shock. But the second they start to see those proof points, here's where you've been featured, here's who's talked to you, here's who views you as an expert, then they're going to be like, oh, I get it. It's just like when you go to a restaurant. you might see a new restaurant, think that's a good place to go. You might read the Yelp reviews and be like, okay, everyone's giving that 4 out of 5 stars. That's a fantastic restaurant. I have to try them. But if your neighbor or your best friend's like, that is the best place to get Thai food, you're going to 100% go. And that's the benefit of PR and media credibility in your corner.
It compounds, right? So if you've been featured in one place and another place and another place, and someone, like you said, has already been on your website, has heard your name, you're circling in their field, if you like, and then you're positioned in a way that's like, trust this person, they're going to then come back to you. And I think that's when you obviously start seeing sales. And like you said, yeah, of course, you might get the odd sale from a really big piece that kind of blows up and explodes, and you get a lot of traction within that like first 48, 72 hours or something. But the idea is that you're compounding. You're not just going to one podcast, you're going in the podcast, you're writing an article, you're going to be seen in different ways. Maybe you're guesting on somebody else's podcast, that kind of thing. So you're compounding, and then that's what gives you the impact. It's been my experience and from what I understand about the industry.
Yeah. Yep. Perfect. Exactly right.
And how many times do you think somebody needs to be seen for them to be recognized as a leader in what they're doing from a publicity standpoint?
I don't think it's a number of times they have to be seen. Like, I can't say, oh, 7 is the magic number. It's the clarity of your message. It could be one time. You could nail it in an article. You could nail it on a podcast. If you know what you do and who you serve and why it's important to them, and you can clearly communicate that in succinct sentences in a way so your target audience understands, you're going to close that gap faster. You're going to see that you don't have to do 500 press interviews. You could do 5, you could do 2, you could do 1. It's the clarity of the message, I think, that's going to help your credibility compound.
And have you seen any specific types of PR work better than others? Like, is it better to be featured on the podcast? Is it better to be seen writing an article for a publication? Like, where should somebody invest their time if they want to start out with PR?
Well, I think the first thing is to know what your main goal is, right? Like, if I want to sell a book, then who do I want to sell that book for? So I know my main goal is to sell a book, and I know I want to sell a book to entrepreneurs. What type of entrepreneurs? Where are they? What are they reading? What are they watching? What are they listening to? Okay, they're busy. They're probably not sitting down to read magazines. They're probably maybe perusing social media, but not paying attention to it. They might be reading a magazine here and there online, but not paying attention to it. But they're multitasking. They always have something going on in their ears. So if I want to sell a book to busy entrepreneurs, I'm only going to go the podcast route, because that's my quickest way to get in their ears on multiple podcasts, get the lift of the repetition of my name, them hearing me, getting the book out there. I'm not going to waste my time with all of the other things. Now, if I had a beauty product or a launch, it would be different. It's a different target audience. It's what are they doing? They need to see things. If it's fashion, that's usually something tactical or something visual. Podcasts aren't going to be the way. So the best answer to that, the best way to get press is to be where your audience is. So you have to know what your goal is, and you have to be very honest with yourself about who your target audience is. Because so many people would be like, well, everyone can use this. It benefits everyone. And that's not really true. There's a specific audience for every single thing you do. And for some products that you offer, it might be different than other products. For some services, totally different lanes. Just have to be very clear about that. And I think that's going to move the needle faster than just picking the, oh, I want to be on Oprah today, or, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, I have to be in Forbes. Sometimes you don't have to be in Forbes. And actually, it's probably the worst place for you to be.
Yeah, because maybe your audience isn't actually reading that. Like, if you're for example, for myself, like I don't work with like multimillionaire coaches, entrepreneurs, for example. I work with people that are just starting out. They're probably not reading Forbes, like in reality. So yeah, I can say that I've been featured in Forbes, but it's probably not where someone's finding me. For me, that would be more like, oh, I just want that name on my website to say that I've been featured here. But the ideal customer probably isn't actually there at this moment in time. It'd be more beneficial for me to go on podcasts like you're on my podcast right now, and somebody hear me, hear my personality, hear me talking, and be like, I really resonate with this girl's story. I would love to work with her. Like, that would be way more beneficial for me than to be in these like high end publications, I guess.
Right, exactly. And also there's a huge push now where I see a lot of my clients that they want to be experts, they want to be on stages. And when I say, why do you want to be on the stage? They're like, Well, I want people to hear my expertise, which is fabulous. But like you just mentioned, most of your clients are so busy in the weeds trying to grow their business, trying to do their business, trying to save every penny that they can to fund their business and their dream. They're not spending a ton of money on expensive conferences. They don't have the liberty to go for 4 days to learn something. They wish they did, but they don't. They might be attending virtual things that have a lower price point, or they don't have to travel. But for you to go on a huge stage speaking tour, it's not going to move the needle the way that I think some people do. And so it's truly, public relations is great. It helps with visibility. It compounds your credibility, like you mentioned. But you have to be very careful of, what am I doing for my ego? Things I think I need to do, or things I want to do to feel important. And the things where is my audience and where they truly are? Because if you're just doing the ego stuff, you're wasting your time. You need to be focusing your efforts where your audience is.
Absolutely, I agree. It's really important. And I think the ego can definitely get in the way when we're talking about PR, because it's like, oh, I can see myself feeding all these places. Yeah, but why? What's the purpose? Like, what you're actually just wasting your time. If it's just to get your name spread across the media, okay, cool. But like, if you're going to do that, be strategic about it and make sure that it's going to come back around for you at some point, and it's going to have some benefit to you and your business. Otherwise, it really is just a time and energy sucker, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
And one thing I'm interested to talk to you about is about the seasonality of getting publicity and getting featured in places, because I think something that puts a lot of people off, and a mistake that I see quite a lot of small businesses do, especially because I used to work particularly in the e-commerce space, and obviously a lot of publications, let's talk specifically like about print magazines, they work a few seasons ahead, right? And then they get all of the information that they need, and then they obviously publish it later on down the line, particularly around like that Christmas period. And many businesses leave it too late. They'll leave it till like November and be like, I want to be in your Christmas gift guide, for example.
Yeah.
And it's too late at that point. So you need to start thinking about it a little bit earlier on. But obviously, being an entrepreneur, you're not always thinking that far ahead. You're generally tending to just get through that moment in time. Obviously, as you develop in your business, as you get more experience, you learn to plan a little bit further ahead. But I have seen it that most people don't. So talk to me about seasonality of PR, and when should you be starting to pitch something to somebody? How do you pitch something? And like, what are most people getting wrong when they're doing that when it comes to seasonality?
Well, I think first of all, most people get it wrong is they think they need to wait. Like, they think PR is an afterthought. Like, oh, when I get bigger, when I get to 6 or 7 figures, when the product is launched, when I have this many people on my social media following. When the truth of the matter is, public relations is a top of funnel for all businesses. They can't go to your restaurant if they don't know you exist. They can't buy your service if they don't know it's out there. They can't shop for your product if they, again, don't know what exists. So PR should be something you're doing when you're picking your social media handles, when you're figuring out your LLC. You should be thinking about how to promote your business. I think that's the first, so many people wait to be ready for PR, but your expertise has to start building day one. I think the other biggest mistake is, once you have things rocking and rolling, you're treating PR like a last minute marketing tactic instead of a long-term asset. Like you mentioned, visibility does have cycles. It is seasonal, but credibility is always going to compound. And I think people miss that. There are going to be moments where PR is more responsive, launches, pivots, cultural conversations, timely expertise. But waiting until there's you need attention to start building, or, oh no, it's November for Christmas. Most long lead publications are 4 months ahead. So a lot of people are already, planning for July things, and we're just putting away Christmas decorations, right? So you have to think that far ahead. When you want to be in the Christmas for 2026, you got to start thinking about it in July of 2026, those sorts of things. And yeah, podcasts will have a shorter leeway. It might be a couple weeks. Local things might be a couple weeks. But I think PR works best when it's already in motion before you're desperate for the results. So seasonal thinking, yes, going to create spikes for you, but I think strategic visibility is going to build momentum. So when you're laying out your launch plan for the year, your sales cycle for the year, your content calendar for the year, you should also be incorporating all those things instead of recreating the wheel like, oh no, what am I going to pitch now PR-wise? How do I promote myself? Make those all one things. Okay, here's our sales cycle. I'm going to tie that into my social media posts. I'm going to tie that into my media pitches. And if you have it all laid out ahead of time, you're never going to have a struggle. You're never going to worry about a lull. You're always going to have something to talk about. And I think that helps get people through the ebbs and the flows and not worrying about being too far behind. Like, oh, I missed this opportunity.
Yeah, it's a shame because then in some cases, I guess you feel like you have to wait until the next year or the next opportunity comes up. And actually, it's a constant thing. It's not like you've missed this. It's just like the narrative shifts. Essentially, you're just going to
Yep.
pitch for something different. And something that you've spoken about that I've seen is the recognition gap. And from what I understand, it's like the gap between how good someone is and how known they are, which is so true for every business because, like you just mentioned, you could have like a business that is literally on the street, like a pizza shop or something. But unless you are spoken about, unless somebody knows where you exist, no one's coming to your pizza shop, right? So how do we bridge that gap? Like, how do we marry those two things up? Because they could be amazing. This pizza at this place could be the best pizza anyone's ever eaten, but they might not be getting the customers. But then this crappy pizza place down the road might be getting all the people because they've got better marketing or better publicity. So how do we bridge those two things of like making sure we are known to be great at what we do?
I think too often people are worried about speaking up. They think if they talk about what they're passionate about or what they're good at or what they're selling, that they're bragging or they're boasting or that it's going to be annoying to people. When the truth of the matter is you find your people that way. You repel the people that don't matter, that will never be customers. But by talking about what you're good at, by showcasing your expertise, by coming from a place of service and speaking to people like, we have the best pizza, or have you heard about this great pizza place, or I'm the expert, on e-commerce. I know all of these things. If you say it in a way of service, in a way of be helpful, in a way to show people the way forward to help improve their lives and make it about them, not about you, that helps you move away from just letting the work speak for itself, right? Like the greatest pizza place on the corner that no one knows about is the greatest pizza place on the corner no one knows about because they're just busy making pizzas. All they need to do is have a few people post a review, have a few people talk about them. The problem with the recognition gap is that service-based businesses, product-based businesses basically just say, I know I'm good. No one seems to notice. Oh, well, they'll figure it out if I keep doing good and doing the work. But in PR, it looks like pitching without clarity, like chasing any platform. Like we mentioned the Forbes one earlier when it doesn't matter, instead of worrying about your positioning or just assuming that your talent alone is going to carry the message. And that's being good isn't the same as being legible. It's not the same as being someone ready for sales. PR is going to close that gap for you because it's going to translate your expertise into relevance for your audience. So the market's going to understand quicker, not that you're just capable, not that you're just the best pizza place in the market, but why you're the obvious choice. And so it's simple. It's just really, really simple things. For the pizza place, it's inviting people in. It's posting on your social media. It's sharing your story. Like, why do you have a pizza place? Why are you the best pizza? Is it different ingredients? Is there something at this point in time? Is it National Pizza Day? Reach out to your local TV station. Easy little lists like that could make a huge difference.
Yeah, but I do think a lot of people do that, but it doesn't land in the way that they want it to land. And I think there's so many different elements as to why that could be. But what do you see is the difference between like somebody that's doing that really well? Because there's one thing like being able to portray your message and get the things that you want somebody to know about you across in a really clear, obvious way. And then another way where it's like, it's all a bit confusing. You're like, okay, I know they do pizza, but they also do pasta and they do this and they do that. And it's like a bit muddled. So one thing I see this happen with a lot is particularly in fashion brands, when they start adding on all of these products, they don't really know what they're meant to be known for anymore, right? So you could have an amazing dress brand, but then suddenly they're adding in shoes, handbags, all of the accessories. And it's like, okay, what is the message? What are people meant to come to you for? So where do you see people do really well with putting their message out there, and people, what do they get wrong when they're trying to attract the right people into their world?
Well, I think too many people try and do too many things all at once. Like you mentioned, like if you're a dress brand, you lead with the dresses. We make these dresses for these people. Here's why they're different. Here's why they matter now. Like you keep the message succinct for that. And then if you also want to capitalize on bonus things like selling accessories, then you just lead with the dresses. And on your website, style the looks. On your social media, show different ways to wear the dresses, but always be pushing the dresses and letting that be your lead message. I think too often people confuse marketing and PR. Like marketing is putting everything out there, promoting, not really caring about your audience. You're selling the benefits of what you're selling, right? Public relations is looking at it from a different lens. It's, how can this improve the customer's life? Why does this matter to my target audience? And it's putting that information out there. I think a lot of people pitch and they send out a press release that's literally just jargon, marketing speak, paragraph after paragraph, when the truth is you need to know three things. You need to tell the journalist, the reporter, the audience who you are, what you do, why you matter to them right this second. And if you can succinctly say why I matter to you right this second, that's when everyone's going to start picking up what you're putting down.
You mentioned a word there that I want to touch on. It's press release. And because again, I worked in PR like at the very beginning of my career. It was a long time ago, but press releases were very much like the thing that we did. Whereas like I've seen, I don't know because I'm not in that world anymore. So I'd really like to understand, does that still have a place? Like, is it more important to have a press release or a pitch? Like, how does that process begin now? Because I've been out of this industry for a long time, so I don't really know how that looks anymore. But what's the first step? Do you need to create a pitch document, like the press release, and then send it out to loads of people? Or do you need to pitch on specific stories?
I think it depends on what your goal is. So if you're a tech company, if you have investors, you're going to always be putting out quarterly launches, press releases, that sort of thing. If you're a normal person, like a service-based business like I am, if you have a local shop, if you're an influencer that wants to get brand deals, you're going to worry about pitches. You're going to look at, okay, here's 12 things I can pitch January through December. I'm going to pick one a month. And I'm just going to send out really short 5 to 7 sentence maximum pitches like, here's who I am, here's what I do, here's why it's important to your readers, here's why it's important to your viewers, here's why it's important to your listeners. Right this second, I'm going to send that pitch off. I'm going to worry about that. I'm not going to worry about press releases. I'm not going to make it long. I'm not going to include my whole bio. It's going to be very brief, 5 to 7 sentences. And I'm just going to send that pitch. And if I send it and I don't hear anything the first time, I'm going to wait 5 to 7 days. And then I'm going to literally forward on that same email. I'm going to change the FW to follow up in the subject line. I'm going to write like 1, maybe 2 sentences and say, hey, wanted to follow up on what's below. Here's one more fact or one more reason why it's relevant to the audience right now that they cover what I'm pitching. Send it off. If I don't hear anything, again, follow up in like 7 days. One more stat, one more sentence. If I haven't heard anything after 3 tries, in my mind, that says it's either not the right time, it's not the right angle, or they're just not interested in my business. Maybe I have the wrong person. So I'll try a different angle, a different story, a different person, and just keep at it until I get the story that I want out there.
And how are you finding the right person? Because I think that's another barrier to entry that a lot of people see. It's like they have to do a bit of research to get the contacts, right? So how are you finding those people? If it was just me trying to get myself press, where would I start?
I would Google what you want to be known for. I would literally, if you're e-commerce expert, I'd Google e-commerce. And then in Google where it says all images, shopping, there's a news tab. I'd click on that news tab and it starts telling you every single outlet that's covering e-commerce right now and how they're covering it and angle the story. That can help you with story ideas. It can help you with publications and outlets to reach out to. It can help you with journalists when you click on it and you'll see the names of who's written about something. And I would just reverse engineer my way through that. You can start building a media list that way. You can also do, and I know that this is just going to repel so many people, you can also get up and go to your local newsstand or bookstore, and where there are tons of magazines, you could pull them off the shelf. If you open them, by law, they have to have a masthead that lists everyone who's working on the magazine and what they're covering. You can start making a media list from there. You can also go on Threads, X, social media, see who's talking about things that are relevant to you. A lot of reporters and journalists are going to have their contact information right in their bios, but you don't need to build a media database that's 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 people deep. You don't even need to have 100 contacts. Start with 5. Do 10 if you feel really ambitious, and just reach out to those folks.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's just about like choosing wisely on the person that you're, the place that you're trying to pitch, and then just finding the means to get to that person, the right person, ideally, because then you've got a better chance of getting there.
You don't have to be everywhere if you're a business or a brand or you want to be an expert. You don't have to be the person that's on every single podcast all the time. You need to be on 1 or 2 really good outlets, or be in 1 or 2 really good outlets where your target audience is. That's all you truly need. 1 or 2 really good pieces of media to help bolster your credibility.
It makes sense. It makes sense. But as we are messy humans, we like to overcomplicate our lives and try and get ourselves put everywhere, eh? So it can be confusing. And for somebody that's like brand new to this, they've never tried any PR before, what would your best advice be for somebody starting out?
My best advice would be to focus on clarity, consistency, and your context. Get clear on your point of view. Then choose one or two platforms where your audience is already listening, reading, watching, wherever they're hanging out. And then add the context, contextualize your expertise through commentary, not content for content's sake, not posting just to post, not spewing stuff to spew stuff, but thoughtful interviews, smart bylines, strategic partnerships. Those are going to build authority faster for you than posting daily without any direction is going to. And you don't need to do more. You need to be better with being clear and where you're being clear, and then where you're placing all of that messaging.
Yeah, it's so true. It makes a lot of sense. And I would love to hear from you in terms of, like, you've obviously built your own PR agency. I assume it's something that has given you some freedom in your life, and freedom is a really big value for myself. Talk to me a little bit about what freedom looks like for you in your current day-to-day, and if you've achieved like your ultimate freedom goals.
Oh, yeah. Freedom for me looks like a choice. I get to choose the clients I want to work with. I get to choose the projects I want to work on. I get to choose the pace that I work. If I don't want to work one day, I don't have to. I think visibility on my own terms has just given me freedom. I think that's what it means to me. I think when people understand who you are, what you stand for, opportunities come to you pre-qualified. And the ones that aren't qualified, you can identify them right away. So I've been able to build the life that I love. I get to do the coolest things every day and work with the coolest people. And I don't have to chase them. They come to me. And I think it just, when you're happy in what you're doing, when you have the freedom to make those choices, it feels very blessed, but it also gives you the confidence. Your work speaks before you enter the room, because I've worked to build my authority. And I now get to see business is lighter. It's easier. It's more fun. It's not heavier, because I don't have to work as hard now that I've built my reputation and I've established here's who I work with and who I'm going to work for. And I think that's freedom for me.
Absolutely. I think there's so much power in having that option, having the choice. And I think you've explained in a nutshell exactly what freedom is at its core, which is incredible. And if someone is about to start in the PR journey, or is already in PR, but they're looking for some support, like, what kind of services do you offer through your agency?
I offer mentorship and one-on-one coaching if they're in PR and they need assistance. Most people struggle with their messaging. And so I have a one day where we sit down and we get all your messaging ironed out, and you walk away with a 12-month plan that shows you how to think, talk, speak, pitch, everything about your business or brand. That's pretty popular. And then I have a lot of clients that want me to come in and do every single thing for them. So 24/7, I have white glove PR service where I manage everything from crisis to their day-to-day to social media and all of that.
Amazing. And if I was looking for that service, where can they find you?
They can find me at hearsaypr.com. It's HEARSAY PR.com, or on Instagram at KJ Blattenbauer.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your PR wisdom today. I can tell you do this for a living, because you've been super good with your answers, like kept it really clear, and it's like amazing, because not everyone does that. So I appreciate that. Thank you. I love it. So thanks so much for joining me today. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Thanks for having me.
If you listen to this episode and realize that you've been sitting on the sidelines, quietly hoping that your work will speak for itself, let this be your sign that it is time to start speaking for yourself and get yourself seen to the right people. Because as KJ said, being good at what you do isn't the same as being known for what you do. And we need to bridge that gap. PR isn't about chasing your ego. It's about building clarity, trust, and helping the right people find you faster. If you are in the process of building your online business right now, you can check out the Freedom Model Methods Foundations, which is a program that actually incorporates a whole module on PR to make sure that you are incorporating this from day one in your business. We're going to clean up your messaging, simplify your systems, and help you build a business that feels really spacious, strategic, and feels like something that you actually want to wake up and run every single day. So if you're ready to be known for what you actually do and not just buried in the busy work, I'm going to put the link in the show notes to that. And I'm also going to put the link for all of KJ's services, because she's got some amazing offers for brands that want to position themselves and put themselves out there in a better way. Go and check those out if you feel the call. And if you love today's episode, please make sure you like, subscribe, and share it with a friend, or leave a review. It really helps us get this message into more ears of freedom-focused women just like you. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.